Hi there, welcome to How's Your Book? I'm Marcus.
And I'm Cole. So I want to talk about the Edgar Awards. Here's a little Edgar Award insert. Do you know about the Edgar Awards?
It's an award for mystery novels, right?
Yeah, so this year is the 80th awards, and it's from the Mystery Writers of America, and they announced the nominations on January 20th, and they will be doing the award ceremony on April 29th. I decided that I wanted to do a book project. I've been talking about how I'm a mood reader, but all of a sudden, I'm a book project reader. There are two categories that interest me. There are a bunch of different categories that are interesting, but there's only really two that I want to do for a vlog. And one of them is the debut novels. So these are their debut novels. Maybe they've written something else. I don't know. It has to be from an approved publisher. The list is really long though. At first I was like, ooh, approved publishers. It sounds like we're winnowing down the field already. But there's 233 approved publishers. So it's got good coverage. To be approved, you have to have good business practices, though I don't know what those are, and fair treatment of authors, and I don't know what that treatment is. Presumably the authors aren't like locked in cages typing away like the monkeys in that Simpsons theme. Insert here. And they have an AI policy. You're not allowed to write a book with AI. You can use AI to like help you out somehow.
Okay, sure.
I don't know how they determine which is which. The other thing I found interesting is that so you know how on books, you know about books, they always have like all the blurbs and stuff on the back. You'll have like, ooh, Paula Hawkins said something about this book. I believe it's called Advanced Praise. When the publishers submit the books for consideration, they're not supposed to submit stuff like that. It's supposed to be a clean book.
I mean, I guess that's what I would have expected.
I think it's good though. So I've been trying to sort of like take that on for myself as well, where I'm not reading into what these books are about too much.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going straight in. I'm trying to ignore what Paula Hawkins had to say. With this, I'm letting the Mystery Writers of America decide for me, which has led me slightly astray, but it's also worked out fairly well. I've only read one book in completion. Marcus, do you want to be my model for a second and hold up the books as I introduce each one? First, we've got Killer Potential by Hannah Deach. I've already read this one, and I will talk about it in a next segment. Exciting. Oh, and this is from, who's it from?
What, the publisher?
Yeah. Should I include that? Ooh.
You can if you want.
William Morrow. Yeah. Oh, I'm not going to know the publisher for all of them right now. We'll add it later. Okay, so this is the second nomination for Best Debut Novel. This is All the Other Mothers Hate Me by Sarah Harmon. And I don't like this book so far. Dead Money by Jacob Kerr. And then we've got Johnny Careless. Ooh, that's fun to say. Johnny Careless, and I don't mind, by Kevin Wade.
I think a lot of people would say Johnny Careless rather than Johnny Careless. But, you know.
Well, we'll find out. Maybe it'll come up. And then we've got History Lessons by Zoe B. Walbrook. Yeah, so those are the nominations. Very exciting. I thought about dressing up as Edgar Allan Poe, but then I realized it's just like black hair and a little black mustache right here. And that has some additional...
Yeah. Was he not at least like a little bit like balding? Like
he had a really big forehead.
People will be like, "You're big foreheaded Hitler."
Yeah. Fat, big foreheaded Hitler.
Yeah.
That's the introductory segment. So we're gonna check back in after I've read the first book. We're back already with book number 1. This is Killer Potential by Hannah Deach. Killer Potential follows Evie Gordon. She was a gifted student. She went to an elite university, very much hyped up. She's gonna be somebody someday. Then she's just an SAT tutor until one day she goes to one of her SAT students' house, and when she arrives, she finds the father and the mother murdered. She gets really freaked out and scared, and then she also finds a woman trapped underneath the stairs, like in like a little closety area. So Evie frees the woman. What the book jacket says, within moments they go from bystanders to suspects to fugitives. So Most of the book follows Evie and this other woman as they are driving across the country trying to avoid capture. A lot of the book follows this fugitive time and focuses in on the relationship between Evie and this mysterious woman, how they survive on the run together. Their dynamic starts off very strange where the other woman isn't talking at all. Evie is like she's not ready to be thrust into this life. Like she doesn't have any skills exactly that like prepare her to be a fugitive. Evie's plan is to be a fugitive while the people solve the murder. We don't know who's solving the murder. She's just hoping that it will be solved while she's being a fugitive. Then they like will stop places to get food and stuff like that and hopefully not get noticed. But inevitably they're kind of sus. Okay. So at points in time they do get noticed and they maybe hear about how the story is being portrayed in the media and it's very sensationalized. People are saying like, oh, is she like a Manson person? She's brutally killed these people, like what's going on? There is a resolution. We do find out things, but in terms of it being a mystery, it's much more, we don't have like a person who's trying to figure out what happened a lot of the time. Initially, I wasn't so sure about it because Evie she's a little bit unpleasant. So she's somebody who's smart and calculating. So she thinks sharply about other people. Not exactly like full of herself because she's very humbled by what she feels like a waste of potential. Experience has made her very bittered. And frustrated. She's not somebody who's like, I love what I do. She feels very unhappy with her circumstances. It's a really good book. I really liked it. So besides it being slow at times when we're kind of stuck in this fugitive space for an extended period of time, through some parts of the book, I did reach a point where I was like, okay, I'm ready for something to happen. I'm ready for the story to progress further. And then it did. So I don't think that's exactly a problem. It actually fits what they were going through. Imagine being a fugitive probably feels like interminable.
Oh, yeah.
You know, not that I know. Lots of slow burn mystery. I recommend it. I would give it at least 4 stars, maybe 4.5.
Oh yeah.
So the thing that's really cool about Killer Potential, and I think we get kind of like a glimpse of this possibility because one of the things that Hannah Deitch calls out in her author bio, she is a former SAT student, or tutor. And it says that she studied Marxist theory and contemporary pop culture. Okay. She's telling me something. What Killer Potential does is it takes themes about meritocracy and this idea of what is your innate potential and like what can you do with your life, and it plays with those in a really satisfying way. And I think she does it incredibly successfully. Sharp and incisive commentary on the American dream and also on how we sensationalize true crime type stuff. There's a little bit of that going on as well.
You mentioned the author's background as an SAT tutor. Did you find that like sort of meaningfully informed or like pleasantly informed the book, or gave some character of like fun verisimilitude or from experience to the early parts of the book?
Yeah, I sort of am hampered by my own experience here because I dropped out of high school and I never took the SATs. In the beginning of the book, we do get a little bit of what Evie's life is like as an SAT tutor, and Hannah Deitch characterizes how being an SAT tutor in rich and wealthy people's homes for their students is a weird combination of being a teacher, which is sort of a higher power authority figure, but also being part of the help, which is a lesser power. Being somebody who's kind of caught between these two things and trying to provide a service, there are limits on how you can get your student to do better. It has that verisimilitude in terms of what she's saying and how she's describing the job, but also in how she brings up some of the weird ironies of a specific type of job.
So is the novel enough of a mystery book for you? You mentioned like that there's kind of there's a logistical element here where the protagonists or suspects are on the move. So I imagine they're not able to investigate the mystery in the way that many mystery novel protagonists would or do. And you did say there's a resolution?
Yes.
But structurally, is it enough of like a mystery book?
That's a good question. In terms of this being a project related to the Edgar Awards, I don't know how much they define the borders of the genre and like what they want things to be. That will be one of the interesting things that I find out as I read the other books. This is a mystery in that the things that are mysterious are like, who done did it? Who is this mysterious woman? Why was she tied up? Who is she? And then I guess the basic, like, how's it going to end? In terms of the who done did it, Evie is spending most of the time hoping that, let's see, we know pretty quickly within the first chapter, so I'm calling it fair game. So the father is murdered, the mother is murdered, and the daughter walks in on Evie being there. Daughter gets hurt and goes into a coma. So part of Evie's hope during this like fugitive time is that the daughter is going to wake up and be able to explain what happened, which is kind of interesting. So she's really like clinging on to something that might not deliver. And so there's that thread of like, at some point we might get information from the daughter. And that's kind of like the main thing that's answering the potential mysteries, other than the conversations that Evie has with the mysterious woman and how she tries to get information. But in some ways, she is not super motivated to get answers from the other woman. The person's been traumatized. There's a mystery and I found the mystery satisfying. It's not a book where I'm like, ooh, it was a great mystery, because there are limited pieces of information that we're dealing with. And it's kind of, there's not that many stones to turn over to be like, ooh, I wonder what happened. And so it has limitations on that, right? It's not like a branching out mystery where you're following different threads and thinking about like different ideas. There's only a few things going on. I would recommend this book, definitely, more in terms of it being an incisive kind of, not quite thriller.
I noticed on the back it says a literary novel with the page-turning intensity of a thriller. Do you feel that the book straddles that line nicely, in your opinion, between like literary ambitions and thriller? Like it lives up to that promise?
I mean, like, of course, these are sort of marketing terms that are kind of hard to grab onto, but definitely. So I would say it doesn't have like the thriller elements where I'm like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Like, but it has a very satisfying blend of literary, which is hard to say. Like, what does that mean? But I take it as like it's saying something. I don't know how to define that exactly. But like that judge one time said,
you know it when you see it.
You know it when you see it.
Right.
If you read the description and it sounds interesting to you, I would strongly recommend it, and I would say go for it. It's also very striking for a debut novel. It has so much to say and is really thoughtful. It doesn't quite feel like a debut.
You seem very positive on the book. I assume you would read more from the author. You indicated there's a resolution. Does it feel, is there any element of it feeling open-ended, or like that there could be more books with these characters, do you think? Difficult to say?
No, I would be surprised if there were a squeakquel.
Okay.
I think you could do something interesting about it, but I don't think having a second book with these same characters would add to it. It did everything it needed to do.
Well, that can be an interesting selling point. I do think finality can be like something that enhances a narrative.
I did want to make a reference to a movie that it slightly reminds me of, No Other Choice, where it's addressing a societal structure type theme, but then at times it's very beautiful, at times it's very funny, and at times it's surprising.
I was going to ask, like, if you feel like this book falls under the sort of eat the rich fiction label, but your invocation of No Other Choice is interesting. I mean, like, I would call No Other Choice more of a sort of scarcity capitalism movie than a like The Menu, where you're like, oh, this is one of those.
It's more about like how are they surviving, and also maybe like what is the experience of surviving going to be like in general. So this is All the Other Mothers Hate Me by Sarah Harmon, and as I sort of alluded to in the introduction, I kind of hate this book. 286 pages in out of 369. So I've got a bit less than 100
There's
pages.
still time.
There's still time.
Turn around,
It could happen. This is another book that sort of intersects with like kind of a wealthy community.
Sure.
So this book takes place in London, and it follows Florence Grimes. That's right, Florence Grimes, who is a 31-year-old woman. The flap describes her as a party girl who always takes the easy way out. Single, broke, and unfulfilled after a humiliating end to her girl band career, she has only one reason to get out of bed each day, her 10-year-old son, Dylan. The book is about Florence navigating this mystery that comes up when a boy from her son's wealthy private school goes missing. Her son is 10 years old, as is like the other child, and she is worried about how her son is going to be impacted by this event, part because her son has previously had conflicts with the boy who went missing. I normally probably wouldn't have read this at all based on the description. It also says, the only problem, Florence has no useful skills, let alone investigative ones, and all the other school moms hate her. Oh, and Florence has a reason to suspect Dylan might not be as innocent as she'd like to believe. So, I'm gonna finish the book. This is the check-in. At this point, I'm not feeling great about it.
It's gonna turn around, everyone.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
So, we'll check back in a little bit.
So cool. How's your book?
I finished All the Other Mothers Hate Me, and unfortunately, in the last 100 pages, it did not get better. In fact, I would say it got worse.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
A mom who is in some parts of the books described as a chaos muppet. Her actions primarily are revolving around the idea of keeping her son away from suspicion. So she interferes with like evidence, and then she's also trying to find out who actually took the missing child. Some of the characterization the author is doing here is Britney Spears coded, like without the success, some of like the chaotic energy. We eventually have it revealed that at some point she made a scene. It became like a tabloid news thing. Some of the issues come down to it's not a very good mystery. All of the characters do things that don't make sense.
Okay.
For either in general, like what would be a good choice here, but also for what would make sense for their characters. We have one character who's introduced as like a mom friend. Initially at the beginning, she has no friends or positive relationships except for her son. Eventually, she does make friends with this other mom. They're trying to figure out things together. And her name's Jenny, is really cast as like a foil to Florence Grimes. Again, her name is Florence Grimes. But then that character does things that don't make sense for her. Nobody's making sense here. The action takes a real leap forward when Florence finds a clue, like a physical clue. But the location where the physical clue is found doesn't make sense. Do you know what I mean? So it's like there's no reason why the thing she found would be in the place she found it. And I looked back to see if like there's any explanation for it. No explanation. Doesn't make sense. I think it's like a mood board. You know, like somebody's like referencing, ooh, she drinks like Red Bull. She loves her son very much, but he's very parentified and kind of has to take care of her. And what's her redeeming quality?
She loves her son.
I don't think that's a like especially redeeming quality. It's the vibe that she identifies her son as like an extension of herself. Like she doesn't really like how her son is or what he likes to do or supporting his relationships. She feels strongly for her son, and that's enough. There's things that she does in this book. She does something very bad where she essentially, spoilers, she frames somebody to protect her son. And later on, somebody else is like, I totally understand, you're a mother. And I don't think being a good mom involves framing somebody else. Like that doesn't seem like that's good for you or your son or for anything.
An adult or a child was framed?
She frames an adult. Somebody who's barely on page. Nothing really comes of it. Implicitly, the book is like, yeah, it makes sense you would do that. Very #boy mom. Some of the writing is bad. Towards the last third, the writing also felt tired. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, you could have taken a break from writing for a little bit and then come back. You know?
You did seem to take issue with several turns of phrase.
My other note here is shallow, inane gruel about motherhood. Yeah, it's bad. It's real bad. I would give this 1 star. Half a star? Does Paige Brown have half stars?
Yes.
Yeah, half a star.
So wow, so that's strong of a reaction, huh?
I wish the other characters were more developed because the other mothers, we don't see a lot of the other mothers. We see a lot of one other mother.
It's interesting that we don't see much of the other titular other mothers, and the plot synopsis kind of made it sound like this incident happens with the bully child and that her son comes under external suspicion. It doesn't sound like he so much immediately comes under external suspicion, that she has some reservations, maybe suspicions, and is kind of trying to manage things, but it's not so much that he's immediately under external suspicion.
No,
is that accurate?
This isn't like a adolescence thing where there's like a lot of stuff happening with the son immediately. What happens with the son is that the police want to come talk to him. On the field trip where the other boy went missing, her son was paired up with him for like activities. He has the missing boy's backpack. Those are the two things, and we find that stuff out very quickly. If you were a good mom, these are the types of things where I'm like, get a good lawyer.
Our previous book, Killer Potential, the author maybe had more bona fides as to the subject matter because, you know, she had the SAT experience that she could put in the author bio. Now, this book sounds like it's about something of a girl failure. So do you think the sort of like girl failure protagonist is calculated, popular type, like sort of a marketable protagonist, like a trendy kind of protagonist?
I think it feels like very like cash grab trendy.
Yeah.
Trying to latch on mom pun,
Yeah.
latch on
I see.
to like mom discourse.
Okay, yeah.
A little bit questioning the would do anything for your child type ideas, but it doesn't explore that deep enough. It doesn't have a very coherent point that it quite makes.
I noticed the author and the character are American
Yeah.
expats in the UK, right?
Yeah. Well, interestingly, in the acknowledgments, the author says something about thank you to somebody who read early drafts and told me that Florence was not British. You guys were right. So I think initially the character was supposed to be British.
Okay.
It mostly contributes to like the fish out of water type stuff.
Sure.
I think the problem is that they didn't bring any other qualities for her.
Yeah.
You want a flawed character to learn some way. To me, it feels like for Florence Grimes to improve as a person, she would need like something like what happens in this book to happen to her like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times more before she starts learning about what's going on.
Okay.
We're back, baby.
Okay, we're back.
We're back.
Tell us about the next book.
I finished it. The next book is Johnny Careless. It's pretty short. It only comes in at 228 pages. It comes from Celadon Books, written by Kevin Wade, who has written quite a lot, it seems. He wrote Meet Joe Black, the movie, Made in Manhattan, and was really very much involved with Blue Bloods for a long time. Blue Bloods is a show that I have not watched because that ain't my vibe. And
So it's not your vibe because, okay, now is the program Law and Order? That's your vibe.
oh, Law and Order is definitely my vibe.
But Blue Bloods.
Too much like
Uh-huh.
this family
Too much
bleeds
mustache?
blue.
Okay.
This family bleeds blue, and like
Yeah.
my brothers and sisters.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
It's been like some people have called it propaganda, which
Which no one has ever accused
nobody's
Law and
ever
Order of being.
accused Law and Order of propaganda. Anyways, I came into this with like a little bit of apprehension that it might not work well for me, but I still hope that Johnny Careless could be a good one out of the ones. And I do like procedurals. I do often like police procedurals. I had trouble getting into it at first, so I listened to the audiobook. In terms of book, I didn't like this book, buddy.
Oh my gosh.
2 stars.
Okay.
So Johnny Careless, Johnny Chambliss is the victim in this book, and he's found, his body's like messed up and his head's messed up and stuff in the water. He's found out on the beach. The book takes place on Long Island, the North Shore, which is a little bit more affluent. And our protagonist is Jeep Mullane. He grew up in that area, but he was not from an affluent family. He got enmeshed with some of the upper crust of the area as he was growing up because he played lacrosse. Somehow he played lacrosse in like a fancy team that was also having people from rich schools. And Johnny Careless was one of those kids. Now he's called Johnny Careless because from a young age everybody was like, doesn't care, he's careless. Johnny Careless. He will be unreliable or like difficult or unpleasant. Jeep is he's a chief of something. Like I don't quite understand like the jurisdictional sort of makeup. So it seems like especially for this area in Long Island, there's counties that have like lots of towns, and then there's towns, and then there's also villages. I don't know what makes a village versus a town. He is the chief for 5 different villages. There's like some jurisdictional stuff with this book where Jeep is not actually investigating the death of his friend. The Nassau County is. But he's concerned that they're not being diligent enough. The book alternates between chapters where it's contemporaneous to Johnny's death, and Jeep is just sort of like navigating the jurisdictional stuff, trying to sort of talk to the family and Johnny's ex-wife and sort of figure out what might have happened. At the same time, he's doing his chief of whatever work, where he's trying to figure out what's going on with these string of car thefts that are happening along the North Shore. And then there are other chapters that are flashbacks. And one thing that does work nicely about this book is that the flashbacks happen at different intervals of time. So it's getting these good like little glimpses of Jeep's life, but also his life with Johnny. That the book had good dialogue in a lot of instances, but then it had some really bad dialogue elsewhere. A main flaw that I have with this book is that the characters outside of Jeep aren't very well written. For instance, there's a character that is a corporal. Every single time she's on page, he's like, and she talked really fast. Every single time. There's some weird sexuality stuff. It feels Kevin Wade is sort of like flexing his character's masculinity by being like, he's good at sex. He's good at sex. There's a couple of ways in which like other women talk that I'm like, that's not really how women talk, but maybe it's how like the conservative women of Long Island talk. I don't know. There was also a major thread with some Latin American characters that were written oddly. Okay, this gets into like one of my main beefs with the book. I don't mind when mysteries are police procedurals. Sometimes people won't be keen on mystery that are police procedurals because they feel it glamorizes the police, or that it's a version of propaganda where it's like the police are great and they all like just want to resolve things and blah blah blah.
Sure.
That isn't really like reflective of how the police actually operate within communities at all times. I'm okay with reading police procedurals and I often like them, but I do want, especially when the police are interacting with the public within the book, for there to be a more nuanced approach, sort of push their story further, right? Instead of just accepting the idea that all cops are good cops and like everything that the police do is great. Kevin Wade doesn't really push that far enough, and there's instances of the wealthy being treated differently than the not wealthy. And there's instances where people are complaining about certain like legal proceedings. This to me feels like it's the author trying to flag to the conservative cops of Long Island how he feels like they might. It gives a weird taste in the mouth. Okay. Where and occasionally it feels like it's getting close to saying something interesting because Jeep is a less affluent person who's part of this community. He's positioned as an outsider. So we're skirting close to things that could lead the author to say something interesting, but he doesn't quite get there. And maybe he's holding it off for later books. It brings to mind Don Winslow wrote The Power of the Dog, The Cartel, and
The Border. And
so it's a series that feature a DEA agent named Arturo, I don't remember what his last name is.
I don't either. Keller,
yeah.
Art Keller.
Series that has its flaws. But one can certainly say that Don Winslow is trying to say something. There are ways in which he sort of glamorizes the DEA agent art, but he also at times will try to sort of like cut through and say something else too. Not just like, man, this is cool. And this doesn't do that.
You're saying it doesn't have a very critical perspective and sort of isn't
super reader,
questioning of certain sort of assumptions that are conventional in the genre, I guess.
Yeah, it doesn't push any assumptions and feels very like, here's a cozy little episode of Blue Bloods. Okay. Some of the ways in which he writes characters might be more tolerable in a visual medium, such as a TV show or a movie, where you're also getting the performance that the actor brings. Additionally, the mystery is okay, but it comes together really quickly, but it's a little bit obvious. The author could have clarified what he was also trying to say with the mystery. Like, he kind of has a thing that he's doing with it, but it's not quite there. It's like, to me, it feels like an earlier draft.
Did you get anything out of the Long Island setting, a place you've been?
Yeah. So I got a little bit out of the Long Island setting in that I was like, oh, Mineola, I know where that is.
Sure.
But overall, not really. It gives some flavor in terms of I'm familiar with some of the economic disparity, the proximity to New York stuff, being like a very conservative area. It feels very grounded in where it's located.
Sure. This is the first book that you've read that is by someone who is like a film and TV writer.
Yeah.
Slightly curious, do any of these three books feel to you at all like there are any indications of being written, like thinking about this could get adapted someday?
Ooh,
no is a valid answer,
Maybe All the Other Mothers Hate Me has that feeling a little bit.
Yeah.
Certainly this, like, I think you can feel the author thinking about it in terms of like how he's written before.
Sure.
I do think, like I said, some of the dialogue is very good.
Yeah, I could see the Amazon Prime streaming icon for All the Mothers Hate Me.
I mean, All the Mothers Hate Me feels like a Harlan Coben adaptation on Netflix.
Okay, interesting.
If Johnny Careless feels like a underdeveloped Violet.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Or, it feels like a CBS show.
Okay.
Sorry, CBS shows. But not HBO.
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to read the next book. You'll see us soon. Hopefully I like the next book. All right, Marcus, guess what? I finished another book.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's right. I finished Dead Money by Jacob Kerr, which is published by Bantam Books. And it turns out I've actually already read this book. I finished it back in July. I recognized Dead Money when I saw it on the list, but I knew that I had been interested in reading it previously. but I didn't remember initially that I actually had read it previously. I listened to the audiobook, and sometimes I forget what audiobooks I listen to. And I'm not always great at keeping track of things on like Goodreads and the such.
Some can slip through.
Exactly. And we're now on Pagebound. Pagebound! With that in mind, what I mostly try to do instead of completely rereading the book, because it's kind of big, is use the physical copy that I had and an audiobook download to reacquaint myself with the book, just so that I could remember more freshly what I liked and disliked about the book. Dead Money takes place in Silicon Valley, and our main character is Mackenzie Clyde. She is a sort of investigative person. Like, she's not a detective in a formal sense, but she works for a really fancy venture capitalist guy, and she's kind of his investigative person. So she researches other companies, people that they're considering on investing in, and acts as a leverage point for him. So
sort of a gumshoe research analyst, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
She's a lawyer, so that is part of her background. But it seems as if her role with the venture capitalist, whose name is Roger Hammersmith, which I think is fun, it's very much based in her qualities and how she approaches people. And she has a very analytical mind, and sort of like there's a winner and there's a loser in each interaction, and what are the tools that she can use to be the winner out of each interaction. But because she's a woman and like the way that she positions herself, it's a little bit more subtle than some of the other Silicon Valley types that she's working with. I think she uses that to her advantage. She's the primary character, and what's happened is a CEO of a startup company called Journey that seems to be sort of like a Uber, Lyft type thing. It's like a tech transportation company. This CEO, his name is Trevor Cannon, he is murdered. He's found murdered at the beginning of the book. It picks up about 22 days later. Mackenzie's boss, Roger Hammersmith, the venture capitalist, wants her to start investigating this case because Mr. Hammersmith has invested like $20 million in the company. Maybe billion? Billion. It's B with a B.
Well,
he wants that money back. But this is the titular dead money. Because of some clause in Trevor Cannon's will, it's just frozen. It's frozen assets. He wants the case to be solved. That way that money can become unfrozen. The novel takes place...
Imagine if the book was called Unalived Money.
The book covers Mackenzie trying to figure out what's going on. She's working with the FBI. It alternates between investigation, contemporary, and Mackenzie's young adulthood and her past. So I really liked how the chapters alternated, because it sort of did a good job of letting me build up my picture of Mackenzie, and then that informing how she approaches investigation and what she might do. We also have a very interesting and I think very good element where there are different motives in relation to investigating the mystery. So there's the FBI guy's motivations, the venture capitalist's motivations, Kenzie's motivations. People relate to this case in different ways that bring in questions about like money and like ownership and like using people to get something. So for instance, for the FBI guy, solving a major case like this related to kind of biggest, most talked about murder in Silicon Valley is a huge stepping stone for his career. For a long time, we don't really know what are the motivations of each character, but that begins to unfold. And the author, Jacob Kerr, does a great job of sort of obscuring that, but not so much that it feels like he's just later on dropping in an important characteristic. Like we get enough to know what's going on. I think on the reread, you would be able to like really pick up those threads woven throughout the narrative, which is what you want in a mystery, personally. Another thing that is nice, and it's sort of something that I hope for in a book like this, is a nice interplay of different institutions. We have like the tech companies, we have the various Silicon Valley stuff, and like different versions of that. We also have financial crime stuff, we've got FBI stuff. Lots of institutions. One of the things that's kind of funny about the book is, which I think works really well for it, but in some ways could put some people off, I guess, is it has a major set piece where a lot of action happens at Burning Man.
Oh, wow.
It's a really nicely done set piece where like you're like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? And like you feel like you're there, and it's very cinematic. You're like, ooh, where's the Mission Impossible music? At Burning Man.
Well, that sounds nice. I mean, action can be hard to write in prose, like good action in prose. It can be very hard, right? It's sort of cannot be. And then And then,
And then, especially like if you think about it in an investigative story, so something that's really putting a lot of its stuff in like conversations with like tech people. So you're talking to this CEO and you're talking to that, you know, another tech position title.
Ps,
a lot of VPs.
Things,
yeah, there we go. And then you have like a big action sequence. And to have that feel natural or like seamless is really nice. Made it memorable. Though I did briefly forget the book. Once I remembered, I was like, Burning Man.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. There's music at the Burning Man sequence.
Right.
It's really layered, really nice. And it doesn't feel like a debut. Yeah, it was great.
Nice.
Strongly recommend. Good for financial crime fans. Yeah, it's got some AML. Anti-money laundering.
I think maybe more than some of the previous books you've talked about, I guess I have an impression maybe that this could be the basis for a series more than the others. I don't know if this impression is just because we spent some time on flashbacks developing our main character.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know, maybe that gives me the impression of like investing some time to define a character that could be, you know, the basis for more stories. What do you think? Like,
yeah, definitely. Within that flashback structure, it has a good quality of how is Mackenzie's past, and not just her own personal past, but her family's past, informing her approach to things. There's a lot of threads to pull on. There's different things to find interesting. There's different motives in how people are relating to the investigation and what it means to them. There's also different motives in how people are using each other. So it sort of has that kind of like maybe Succession quality. There's always a bit of grittiness to how people are interacting with each other. And I think that does well in television shows where you have something to sort of work through with each character.
Right. And do you think it managed to avoid like the feeling of, oh, another flashback part that's like going to sort of take me out of the main narrative? Like it's balanced well for you?
It's balanced
like,
beautifully.
Nice.
Sometimes flashbacks can feel more about the author wanting to utilize the flashback rather than the flashback serving a purpose within the story. And in this, it definitely does. Yeah. Nice. And it doesn't take up too much of the book. It's not like every single chapter switches back to a flashback. It's not that metered.
Right.
I would give, I'm not sure, like 4.5, 5 stars.
Nice.
Real good. I don't really have any complaints other than like, you know, if you're looking for somebody to say something interesting about like race or inequity or marginalization, I don't think you're going to really turn to the Silicon Valley types to say it. There's a little bit of something being said about gender. It's not like radical, you know?
Well, pretty high rating. It sounds like this could be a close pick for what should win, or maybe even close prediction for what will win the debut category, but we don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
Find out later.
So the next book we're going to discuss is History Lessons by Zoe B. Walbrook, which comes from Soho Press, which was one of my favorite publishing houses. I comboed this with the audiobook, which is narrated by Jasmine Walker, which I do recommend. History Lessons follows Daphne Uvacher. I can't remember exactly if that's the correct pronunciation, but I believe so. She is a new history professor at a fictional elite university. Her focus is on French colonialism. Daphne's family is Ivorian, from like the Ivory Coast, and from New Orleans. Her family is like very accomplished. At a certain point in the book, it's sort of alluded to and described that her dad is sort of like a CIA agent type person. So we kind of bring in like a wild little thread over that way. And as a young Black professor, just recently on a tenure track, she wants to kind of keep cool, keep quiet, not cause too much trouble, not get involved in like department drama, and she just wants to like hang out with her books, do her history professor stuff, and work on her project. She kind of begins the book wanting to be, or at least expressing an interest in living a slightly quiet life, and she expresses that her family is kind of like all these adventurers and like involved in like high stakes stuff, and in comparison her life seems very like low key. Before we even meet Daphne, we start off with the murder of one of her colleagues. His name is Sam Taylor, a blonde white academic at the same university. He works within the anthropology department, and he's a little bit of like a golden boy. He's like a talking head on different news channels and stuff like that, and he gets a lot of attention. At the beginning of the book, we sort of see the scene where he's about to be murdered. He sort of like knows that he might be murdered. He suspects that a kind of conspiracy type of thing. He mentions sort of what are they going to do with his body? How do they normally dispose of bodies? And in his final moments, he's sort of panicking. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And he tries to call somebody on his phone. He calls doesn't go through calls, doesn't go through, tries a few times. And then he texts something to the person. And he's like, hopefully she'll understand what it means. She's the only one smart enough to get it. Just sends the text. And that's the end of the beginning. Turns out he texted Daphne, our main character, which is curious because she doesn't like this guy. Like, they're not friends. They don't really interact. The way in which she expresses her disinterest in him varies between, I just kind of don't like that guy, or he's like a little bit cringe, to he kind of gives me bad vibes. Because one of the last things that he did as this sort of violent conspiracy is coming to a head with him is text her, the direction of the conspiracy begins to pull her in. She then gets involved. So even though she wants to live this quiet life, she's now pulled in and involved and like is under attack, kind of. She's a reluctant investigator. The message she sent was kind of cryptic. She's trying to figure out, what does it mean? What's going on? Why was he murdered? It unfolds, gets into themes about legacy, like sort of how people are understood. For instance, a lot of people are like, oh no, Sam Taylor, you know, he was such an important figure in our campus. And some people are like, I didn't really like Sam Taylor. He kind of like gave me the creeps. One of the things that's interesting about this novel is that it's sort of a lot of things all at once. So it's a bit cozy. It definitely has sort of like a cozy mystery vibe. But then it also has some pretty triggering heavy stuff. That's like, whoa, oh, okay. It's a bit of a romance, but it doesn't go very far with the romance. There's a little bit of an action sequence and stuff like that. Like I said, she has like the CIA family background type thing. But she is reluctant. She doesn't want to be doing action stuff, but she's kind of doing action stuff. And then there's a little bit of like an expose type element to it where it's sort of like revealing a seedy underbelly. But then there's limits on that too. So it's a lot of different things, and it feels very vibrant, but then it could also feel a little bit overstuffed. So within the mystery genre, there's a lot of different approaches to how authors provide clues. Sometimes the clues will really be on the page and they'll be available to the reader to try and figure out what's going on themselves. And some authors a little bit less so. In this, I kind of found that a lot of the clues weren't really available to the reader. So some of it hinges on like Daphne's knowledge of her surroundings and her knowledge of French, but we're never told about the surroundings even to help us break through the French. And some of it just sort of like boop, opens up, and then it clicks for her, but there's not a lot of opportunity for it to click for us. And I don't love that personally. There are some elements that you can kind of figure out and suss out as a reader, which is nice, but there's a few question marks on the mystery front. There are lots of characters, which is fun, and that's cool. It's a very like diverse, as in like a diverse, both in like their identities and stuff like that, but also just a wide range of different types of characters and how they are positioned in the story. But it can feel crowded in some ways. Some of them feel a little bit purposeless, though I guess like part of the purpose is to like provide a diverse range of characters and like lots of different people within the world. So you don't want an empty campus. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. I do think it is interesting to have the investigator have a complicated relationship with the victim. I kind of liked it a lot, but I kind of didn't. Yeah, like, it doesn't hold up exactly for me. Like, I had fun reading it. I think I would have liked it if the author had pulled back on the romance element and maybe like let the romance be and balanced out the cozy a little bit more with the yoiks that's kind of triggering stuff. Because that's where it's sort of tonally really odd to go from this thing to that thing pretty quickly in something that presents initially as a cozy. I think it's okay for cozier mysteries to take on important themes and topics, but I don't know that the author quite handled the transition period very well.
Well, it sounds like it is a pretty tempered impression. Like, there are elements that you like here and there.
Yeah.
But they're definitely really balanced out by, it seems like, having a lot of reservations about various elements.
Yeah, and like, I would definitely recommend it. I think it's good. I would probably give somebody a warning about the darker narrative stuff. And I would read the next book. Like, I'm sure it's going to have a next book. It's definitely like the start of a series, and I can see the author setting up different possibilities. And I can understand if it doesn't suit somebody's taste. But I also think it was good enough, you know? Like, so for instance, I do think there's sometimes a trend to be a little bit more critical of, like, the things that you would find completely fine in, like, a white author's works. Sometimes readers approach differently when reading a black author's work or a black main character. It's okay to be a lot of different things. I'm not sure if it quite suited me. I would want it in the future to be a little bit better balanced for me, or to like pull more into different places.
I get you.
I think she kind of wanted to have all of these elements pulled in together, and so because there was so much on the table, the mystery itself sort of like pulled down a little bit by the other things. So it did everything pretty good, you know, like a B level, that's pretty good. But it didn't do the mystery at like an A level anymore. Really nice voice. I liked that a lot of the books sort of centered around Daphne pushing herself out of her comfort zone, and Daphne also learning to like listen to her voice and how she's approaching things, and there's a good character arc for her, definitely. So I think like 3.5 stars.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Something like that.
So, you read several books.
Yeah, that's right, baby. I read 5 books.
Whoa.
Yep. In quick succession, one might say. Thank you for joining me on this project. This is my first time doing a little vloggy video. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for being here and tolerating probably a too long video. I do really love mysteries, and I'm hoping that our channel will continue to be a space for mystery appreciation, because mysteries are great.
So, who would you give the best debut award to?
Should I do like rank it or just like give the top?
I think ranking would be fun, I guess.
So, at the bottom of the list, can you guess? Who is it?
Johnny Careless?
No, you forgot somebody.
Yeah, I did. All the Other Mothers Hate Me.
Yeah, unfortunately, All the Other Mothers Hate Me is at the bottom of the list with like 1 star. Okay, book number 4.
Johnny Careless
with 2 stars.
Okay,
Okay, it gets a little bit trickier now. I'm not sure how to rank between...
You're seeing the process live.
You're seeing
how the sausage gets made.
Yeah, the sausage is... I'm not sure what the order is, but the next 2 are going to be Killer Potential and History Lessons. Not sure the order. So for the History Lessons section, I think I'm going to call it like a 3.5. For the Killer Potential, I'm going to call it a 4. Killer Potential is not trying to do as many things, I think, as History Lessons.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I think it pulled it off better. But History Lessons was trying to do a lot of different things, had a more conventional mystery where we're trying to investigate and figure it out. So it's kind of hard to like
I see.
Again?
You're sort of taking into account how much of a mystery it is a little?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I understand, yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Sure, right. And who's number 1 the winner?
Number 1 the winner! It's Dead Money!
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, by Jacob Kerr.
Yeah.
So the reason why I would pick Dead Money as best debut is because it really excelled at being a really strong mystery. That's what I'm coming to first. When I like look for something and it says Edgar Award winner, I'm like, oh baby, this better be a good mystery. That's I want that to be like the top thing. Yeah, and it was really great at it. Really enjoyed it.
Didn't feel like a debut. Made it seem easy.
Yeah.
Effortless.
Johnny Effortless. Yeah, it was really good. I really recommend it. So of all 5 books, I would really recommend the top 3. I think they would be good choices, depending on what you're looking for. And I am excited to see what the authors bring forth. It was a fun time. I enjoyed it. I'm glad that I started with the best debut category as well.
Yeah.
Because I've got another video coming up. Yeah, join us next time.
Wait, is your choice for like your favorite, like who you would give it to? Do you also think it's the one that would win?
Ooh.
Are you putting money on Dead Money? Are you putting Dead Money on Dead Money?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's hard.
I get you. It's
I
not
don't
like
know.
you've studied the previous winners.
Yeah, I haven't studied the previous winners.
Yeah.
So it's hard to predict.
And there are no like precursor awards.
Yeah,
Maybe
I'm not
there
sure.
are. I don't know.
I'm not sure. So,
Yeah.
if you have thoughts on who you think will win or who you want to win, let me know. If any of the books sound interesting to you or if you have questions about them, let me know. Here to serve.
Thank you so much for watching.